Hello, everyone. This is the Magic is Real podcast. I'm Shannon. I'm your host. This is the podcast where I interview near-death experiencers and other fascinating people about their spiritual awakenings and their spiritually transformative experiences. We deep dive into all things metaphysical and spiritual. Today, I have no guest. I am just here alone to share with you about my ayahuasca experience. This has been something that I have been curious about for a very long time. And fortunately, in divine timing, I was offered the gift of a weekend retreat with some very, very special people. And I decided to take them up on the opportunity. So, a few things. First, if you struggle with mental health, schizophrenia, bipolar, or if you are an active drug user, please do not do ayahuasca or any other kind of psychedelic. And definitely do not do this without supervision, without guides who know what they're doing and have lots of experience, who care about your well-being, who have access to medical care in the event of an emergency. And this isn't obviously something to do recreationally. This is not just something, most of you, I think, if you know what ayahuasca is, it's a very sacred plant. It is not just about a psychedelic experience. The point of it is that it is a process. It is a healing process. It is an opportunity to gain some insights from the spirit of the plant, as well as your higher self, as well as your guides. A lot of people turn to ayahuasca because they are in dire situations. Maybe they've been struggling with addiction. Maybe they are fed up with life. Maybe they're lost or stuck. Maybe they've had traumatic abuse. And this medicine can also be very helpful for disease. It is not a guarantee, but there have been instances of people spontaneously healing. There have, from medical conditions they were told were incurable, or some people have reported that they were only given a few months to live and then did this and lived well beyond the point at which their doctors told them they would. But again, this is something that's very sacred. It's something to do with the intention, and you want to work with the right people. You want to work with people that are knowledgeable, that are medicine people, that have studied this, that have a lot of experience and who can hold a safe space for you, and that aren't just going to accept anybody into the experience, who are going to be discerning and who are not about this for the money. Before I did ayahuasca, I had some concerns. I was really worried because I had seen some documentaries and I thought it was really fascinating and interesting, but I'd also seen that there's some shamans that were irresponsible. People might have died during ceremony and nobody reported it and it was covered up. This is something that is not legal in the United States. It is legal in certain South American countries. I was also concerned. I have a mild heart condition, mitral valve regurgitation. And so before I did it, I was a little bit nervous. And I had seen these documentaries where people were throwing up and it was like screaming, crying, purging. And I was nervous, but I did, for sort of research purposes, if nothing else, want to experience this. I also, as a medium, a psychic medium, I communicate with the other side all the time, and I interview near-death experiencers, so I believe I know a lot about what is happening in the universe and what we're doing here. So I wasn't really looking for answers. I've done a lot of 12-step healing and around sex and love addiction, around self-love, around anxiety, soothing anxiety. And before I went into this experience, I had to go off my SSRI, which I take because I've always been a very highly sensitive person. I tend to have natural anxiety just because I get overstimulated very easily. So I can have an anxiety attack even when things are going well and there's just a lot going on. I get overstimulated. I need a lot of sleep. So that's the backstory. I just want to that the disclaimer is please be very careful and make sure that you're working with people who are responsible and ethical and aren't just going to take anybody. They're going to make sure you're healthy, that you're in a place to do this, that it's intentional, that it's not just you trying to get high, because it isn't about that at all. So that being said, I was so lucky to be able to work with the most amazing guides who are South American, live in South America, have an extensive knowledge of health, nutrition, natural medicine, etc. Very highly experienced. They've never had anything go wrong. They've only had astounding positive feedback. So I knew I was in good hands. I'll just kind of start with again, everybody's experience will be different. But I know going in, I wanted to know what to expect. And I'll tell you some of the things that surprised me and what I personally took from the experience. So I'll walk you through. Everyone will do ceremony a bit different. A lot of times, ayahuasca ceremonies will be done in a large group. That often happens in some South American countries and retreat centers, etc. And you'll have a bunch of people laying around. Each person gets a mat, so you kind of make a little nest for yourself, a little bed. And I can't speak to how everyone does it because I've only done this one ceremony. But the first day, we needed to fast after 1 p.m. And there are a list of things to avoid the week before, leading up to it. So it's cleansing the body. First of all, making sure you're not taking any medication that would potentially interact like an SSRI, which you run the risk of serotonin syndrome if you're taking anything that would increase your serotonin. Avoiding caffeine and other stimulants, avoiding meat, a lot, dairy, a lot of salts, and even sex, other drug, even marijuana, etc. So leading up to this for a few weeks, you are advised to stay away from any kind of triggering content, anything violent, just really keeping your nervous system calm, etc. So you're prepping for this and making sure that you're in a really good state of mind and that you're ready and prepared. So for us, the first night went like this. We started at around 8:39. My friend and I did this together in a private group, which was just the two of us. We laid down our mats with pillows and blankets. Our guides set up. They dressed in Peruvian garb, beautiful clothing, floral sprays, all kinds of natural elements. We had candles. It was a very beautiful environment. And we began with the inhalation of hape, which is, I don't want to say what it is because I don't exactly, I'm not really an expert on this, but what I understand is the word hape comes from the French to grind. So this is a type of a cactus that is ground up, and people use it in South American cultures for calming. And so there's sort of this like horn thing. And the first thing that happens is one of the guides, blows this powder up your nose and into both nostrils. My experience of that was burning, burning, burning. I jumped up and went, no, 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 no. Eyes started watering, nose is burning. I will say it smells really nice, though. I'm trying to think of what it smells like. It's a very pleasant sort of woody, almost like a cookie. It's like an oatmeal cookie, actually, now that I think about it. And you need to be careful not to swallow it because you don't want to get it in your stomach. So you hold your breath, goes in your nose. As soon as it's done, you breathe out. Then you might start salivating. You spit into a bucket. Then your nose starts gushing. So you start blowing your nose and all this mucus comes out. And then there's this sense of just groundedness and peace. And then the guides told us, okay, now we're in silence. We just sit let that let's get centered, let's ground. A bit later, I don't remember there's a prayer said, there's some Aboriginal words that are used through ceremony that are similar to the idea of namaste, where it's like the divinity in me sees the divinity in you. And there's a sort of sacred moment of prayer. And then there may have been these particular people are beautiful musicians. South American music, it's gorgeous. I don't remember if they played a song first, but the next thing is then we pour the medicine and it's like a shot glass. I was told that ayahuasca tastes horrendous. This did not. It tasted like prune juice. It was like raisins. It kind of had like like wet tobacco, pruny kind of cigar smelling sweetness to it. It was not at all unpleasant. It was quite nice. Wouldn't want to drink like a whole cup of it, but nice little shot glass. And then they say, now we lie down and we let the medicine, we get to know the medicine. We sit with the medicine. I'm getting chills right now too. And we laid there for an hour and a half, just total silence. And the house is totally quiet. Nobody makes a sound. You can get up to pee. You can do whatever you got to do. But you just lay there and you kind of just sort of let it sit, meditate. Maybe an hour and a half later, its time becomes sort of irrelevant at that point. I began to sort of lightly start to see visions. But to me, I've already worked with psilocybin. In college, I took acid. I've taken mushrooms. So to me, psychedelics are not new to me. So it's pretty standard. Nothing, open my eyes, everything's perfectly clear, everything looks normal. Close my eyes and I'm starting to see a lot of colors and swirly things. And it's pretty light at this point. And this kind of goes on for, I don't know, an hour. I can't even tell you how long it was. And I start to hallucinate. And then I felt a little nauseous, but I'm like, I'm not going to throw up. And I'm feeling kind of nauseated. Starting to get a headache. I get migraines. So I was like, I'm feeling a little migraine-y, not feeling great. Not really having any revelations. Not really having anything major happen. After a little while, the guides ask, the guides start playing music. So like they're playing this beautiful music in harmony. It's a woman and a man, and they're playing guitar and shakers, and it's like a sound bath. And there's beautiful music, and they're singing in Spanish. And again, I don't know exactly what languages they're there. I speak Spanish a bit, but there's some there's another language in there. So a lot of the words are, I think, more from an Aboriginal, indigenous culture. So you're just kind of floating around. And then a bit later, we're sort of roused and asked how we're feeling. And I was like, I think I feel normal. I think I'm pretty normal. So they're like, okay, we're going to take the second cup, drink another cup. Kind of same thing happens. I don't really see a lot, but I'm seeing some grotesque things. I'm not afraid at all. There's no fear. I'm just feeling like, I'm feeling nauseated. I'm seeing like weird stuff that's not pretty. It's just like stranger things, like organic matter. And I'm like it's like tunnels of this like muscly, ropey stuff. And then some weird contorted bodies and creatures. I'm not afraid at all. And I'm not having like too many thoughts. I'm trying to remember. It's sort of hard to say when I started to sort of connect with the spirit. But I had some thoughts. Some things started to come in. And one of the things that I heard very loudly, the first thing I heard was energy cannot be created nor destroyed. I heard that really loudly. It wasn't like an auditory hallucination. It's like when you hear someone talking in a dream. So you hear the voice, but it wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside. And then, so not a lot was happening, but I was hearing, I was hearing, you need to learn to receive. I found myself being very concerned with the guides. Like, are they okay? Are they getting dehydrated? Are their voices okay? How can they be singing for this long? And I found myself concerned about, how's my friend doing? And then the voice was like, you need to stop worrying about everybody else and focus on yourself, which I already knew, but it was like, so I did that. So after a while, it's 3 a.m. and I'm starting to sort of come down from this. And I'm feeling nauseated, but nothing dramatic has really happened. And then they're like, all right, let's get up. Let's have snacks. Let's make sure you have food in your stomach. Let's go eat. So we get in the kitchen. I'm with my friend. And I just said, don't you feel like the floor is too high? And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like the floor is too high. It's like the ground feels too high. And we're just laughing about it. And then I'm getting really giggly. And I'm just like, I'm hungry. Give me some avocado toast. I'm like, I just need to eat. And I start eat some avocado toast, drink some electrolytes. And all of a sudden, everything starts to be like, everybody's done. Like, the guides take the medicine. My friend takes the medicine. My friend actually went and barfed. Not me. I'm just like, I don't know. That was kind of like, I don't know. Nothing really happened. And then all of a sudden at 3 a.m, I'm like, oh God, I'm sick. I'm so sick. I'm so nauseated. And I looked at the guide and I said, I don't want to do this tomorrow. I don't want to do this again. No, I'm not doing it. And then he's like, go lie down. And at that moment, I laid down and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sick. Oh my God, I want to throw up. But at that point, everyone goes to bed and now it hits me. Now, this is because I'm a slow metabolizer, which I've already sort of known, but this cemented it. And the guy confirmed that for me. Like, everyone else was done and it just hit me. It hit me hours later. So at this point, I'm lying on my side. I'm so nauseated. And what I'm seeing is like I'm in a video game. It's like black and purple and red. And I'm in this sort of like dark tunnel underground. Again, I'm not afraid. I'm just like, this is so ugly and gross and dark. And I'm just seeing all this like ugly stuff. Nothing scary, no monsters, no dark energies. Just, it's like when you're sick. If you've ever hallucinated when you had like the flu and you're like, I just don't want to be here. And I was just breathing through the nausea because I felt like I was in a cocoon. I'm like, I can't move. I don't want to get up. If I get up, I can't throw up. I can't even get up to throw up because I'm so tired. I'm so sedated. And I'm just seeing all this stuff and I feel like I'm sort of like in a pinball machine. And then I asked, why am I here? This is so boring and it's so dark. And can we please go somewhere prettier? I want to be somewhere beautiful. Then I remembered you're not supposed to tell the medicine where to take you. You have to let the medicine take you where it wants to take you. So I said, okay, fine. Why am I here? And Spirit said to me, you're in a cage of your own making. I heard that loud. I said, okay, I get it. I get it. And then it proceeds to tell me as I'm seeing all these visions, I don't even really remember what they were. I just know there was a lot of darkness. And there was no light anywhere. It was all underground. It was all this like weird dark world and there'd be tunnels and it was like figures and dripping ugly things. And then as I traveled through this world, I just kept feeling or understanding. It was like telepathy. You need to learn how to receive. You need to stop trying to control everything. You need to let go of control. Everything in your life is so controlled. You're always so responsible. You're always so reliable. You follow the rules. You're always making yourself small. You're always bending and contorting to accommodate other people's comfort. Be yourself. Stop trying to be so polite all the time. Stop trying to make people not stop. It was more of like do. Like forget about people pleasing. You're always so composed and like even your emotions. You never get angry. You never want to feel anger. Like if someone hurts your feelings, you're always so reasonable and accommodating and like, I understand. It's fine. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. It's just because of trauma. Like making excuses for other people rather than letting myself feel hurt. I'm always like, no, it's fine. I understand. I'm independent. I can handle it. Don't worry about me. So I will take on, rather than make someone else uncomfortable, I'm like, I'll just be uncomfortable because I can hold that. I can just give you love because I've got a full cup of love. So it's not draining me to give you love. If you don't give back to me, it's fine. Like, I don't need you to give back to me. I can do this on my own. So the message I got was, you're hyper functioning, you're hyper independent. You are so concerned about what people think of you that you always want people to like you. And because of that, you're not really being completely authentic. And you are neglecting yourself. You're abandoning self-abandoning. And you need to learn how to to receive without guilt. I'm the kind of person where, and I've struggled with this lately, where when someone's really generous and I can't give back like financially, I feel so guilty. Like, someone takes me out for a nice dinner and I'm like, oh, please don't do that. It makes me feel bad because I can't afford that kind of a thing. Or even just the gift of this weekend that my friend paid for me and gave me as a gift. And I'm like, I just feel like it makes me feel like weirdly guilty when people are nice to me, like extra nice to me or give to me. There's a feeling of, which I know has to do with unworthiness, even though I know logically that I'm a good person and I show up for people. There's this like guilt that comes with it. Like, and then I had that revelation that, well, if you can't receive gifts, how are you going to receive money? You know, my challenge has been money and fear of lack and losing, like even when I have money, losing money or whatever. And so I felt that. And then finally I just fell asleep. And so now it was like 5 in the morning. And then I'm sleeping inside of a common area. So at 8 o'clock, everyone's awake. My friend comes in. We kind of talk about our experience. He gets in bed with me and we're like talking about it. And then that day I'm tired, but we had an integration process. So our guides made us breakfast, healthy foods, whole foods, vegetarian food, blueberries and avocados and egg and whatever, and cacao, and just like this really beautiful breakfast. And they're like, then we're going to make you lunch so that you're satiated. So then we have an integration circle, which of course I won't share what everyone else shared. But what was really interesting to me is that my friend had the same revelations I did about, I mean, I could share this. It's not that personal. It's like, I'm keeping myself small because I'm afraid of being too much. I don't want to push people away with being my full self because I think I'm too much. And I was like, that is exactly what I had, which is like, just, why are you so polite? Why are you sitting with your hands in your lap? And we talked it all out. It was really interesting. It wasn't anything I didn't already know. It was just sort of being reminded about people pleasing and allowing people to give to you. And I've shared this openly on the podcast, and I'll keep sharing it again. And I've shared it on many podcasts with my struggles with sex and love addiction. It's sex and love addiction isn't just, I have lots of sex, because that's not true. At least not now in these days. That's not the problem. Now the problem is, for me, or like the remaining issue is just wanting to be alone. I don't want to share. I don't like conflict. So in relationship, you're always forced to deal with conflict. And for me, it's like, I'd rather just not. I'd rather just be by myself and keep the risk low. I tend to feel smothered easily. I tend to need a lot of space. I need a lot of self-care. I need a lot of sleep. So I don't really, I love connection and I love intimacy, but I also have this side of myself that's like, I just want to do this myself. And there's more of like that kind of thing where I'm like, and I tend to choose relationships where it's not traditional or there's not this like enmeshment. It's more just like, you know, let's just kind of keep this, we're both independent people and let's just kind of like keep it that way. And so I talked about that too. And I addressed how I'm not in any pain necessarily, but I know that I'm missing out on deeper intimacy because I just am protecting myself. I don't really ask a lot of other people, and I don't want anyone to depend on me, and I don't tend to, I'm very loving and I love giving gifts and I love affection, but I also tend to just stay to myself in a lot of ways. I'm very social, but also really just kind of I said, it's not hurting me, but at the same time, I know that because I don't really feel comfortable with receiving, I'm also cheating myself out of reciprocity and all of these types of things. So that was just like, it was a beautiful therapy session more than anything. And what was interesting is I texted my sister to tell her, I said, here are the revelations I had about people pleasing, not speaking up, not just saying, hey, I'm good, I can handle it, don't worry about me. And she said, I've literally been thinking the same thing recently about just like, I'll absorb it so you don't have to. And it's not trying to be a martyr. She's not like that. I'm not like that. And I was sharing that with the guides, and they said what's so interesting is that often people will have this experience, and whatever revelations they come up with, they'll talk to their family, and the family will say, I have been thinking the same thing. I've been having the same experience. So a lot of this, they explained, has to do with generational or epigenetic trauma. So I'm like, I know my mom didn't raise me to not speak up. She didn't say stay quiet. But it's also upbringing. Like, we grew up in a very polite society in Westport, Connecticut, and it's keep your hands in your elbows off the table, manners, 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 and that's all really nice. And I had a beautiful upbringing, and also the environment I grew up in and my sister grew up in was just everyone sort of does the thing: get married, have kids, or go to college, get married, have kids, get a job on Wall Street. It's just kind of like the supposed to stuff. And that we were, for whatever reason, sort of conditioned not to be rebels, or not to rebel, like follow the rules and do all the things and be really good and be the good girl. And that wasn't my parents' fault. It's just sort of the environment we grew up in, right? So I found that interesting. And what the guide explained to me too was that he had had a similar experience with his mother, where she had been very ill or had some kind of chronic pain. And in ceremony, he had a spiritual surgery where some stuff was pulled out of him. Familial trauma, whatever it was. He called her to check in, and she didn't even know he had had this experience. And she said, what's so weird is all my pain's gone. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I don't have the pain anymore. So they were talking about sort of how we are linked ancestrally. And like, even if my mom didn't tell me to be quiet, I know my grandmother felt she couldn't speak up. And when she was angry, she would give people the silent treatment. And she just would shut down. And she was working since she was 11 years old. She wasn't allowed to be a kid. And so he said, going down the line, you can look at your ancestors and like, for why do we feel so, why do we feel like we have to hustle and grind all the time or prove ourselves? Or we talked a lot too about American culture versus South American culture and the hustle and grind, and how we're all burned out and stressed, how Americans have so much illness and inflammation because of, we're living in the society where it's like the cost of living is so high and there's so much competition and it's so me, and it's so individualized and me first, and that this isn't the way we're meant to live. And he talked about what it's like to live in Peru and Chile, where everybody gets healthy food without toxins. It's such a low cost of living. And I told him I had gone to Costa Rica several times twice because it was so remarkable how the people there live in the present, and they don't need a lot. They have tin roofs and that's all they need. There aren't these horrible, there aren't these big weather changes. When I was in Costa Rica, I noticed that people just did maybe their job was to give zipline tours, and they would do one tour. That's their job. Take some tourists out, go home, and enjoy the rest of the day. They don't need a lot of money. And it was just really got me thinking a lot about how we've just become so comfortable with, this is normal to be hustling and grinding. This is normal to be stressed all the time. It's normal to have, I was explaining to him, I have chronic migraines. I always wake up feeling like I'm in a coma and I can't get out of bed. And he's like, that's inflammation. There's toxins, parasites, stress. All of this stuff is going to make us so sick. And so there was a lot of beautiful conversation. This guy was so knowledgeable about nutrition and medicine and life, and he just had so much wisdom. So that was really cool. And what I said to them is that even if there weren't the medicine involved, even if this weren't a ceremony around plant medicine, even just the fact that right now, like they had said to me too, and they had reiterated this, that part of this whole experience, it's not just about the medicine. It is about stopping what we're doing, giving ourselves permission to stop thinking about work, get off the treadmill, be present, have a weekend of connection. We talked all weekend about really like beautiful, deep stuff, like being humanity, what it's like to be a person, how we're all living, how we tend to live unnaturally. And we talked about overcoming trauma and healing and nutrition and all this really interesting stuff, and what it's like to live in South America and how I might actually like to do that. That was all beautiful. And then we had another beautiful meal, and it was just this love and connection. And my friend and I had these beautiful moments of sharing appreciation for each other and looking each other deep in the eyes and saying how much we love each other and how we appreciate each other. My friend made me a beautiful bracelet that he gave me that it was just like, we're here now. We're spending a whole weekend together with the intention of connection, and how we really don't often do that and stop everything and say, it's about rest. So they were like, it's not just about the medicine, it's about the rest after and surrounding. So then ceremony 2, they said, it's going to be tonight. We're going to start at 9. This one, we're going to go deeper. This one, it's going to be a bigger dose, a little bit more dose, or I think at least that's what I understood. And last night was the initiation. That's the clearing out. Like that, the reason we do 2 nights is that the first night is sort of a clearing out of clutter and preparing for the second night, which is where like things go deeper. So I go into it and I'm like, this is going to be awful. I'm like, I guarantee I'm going to throw up. I'm probably going to get really sick. I'm probably going to be like tripping out really hard. I'm probably going to see ETs or little elves who are going to tell me the mysteries of the universe, or I'm going to have to see something really painful. You know, I've heard that people have had they have to face their trauma, they see it, they throw it all up, and it can be really traumatic, but also healing and refreshing. Well, so the second time he's like, well, since you're a slow metabolizer, we're going to give you like a dose and a half in advance so that you're along with everybody else, because otherwise you're just going to be, again, 4 a.m. Oh, now it's hitting me. So we go into it again. We do the hape. The music starts. It's beautiful. And then we take a bigger dose this time. And he's like, then we'll take another dose later. And I was prepared. I'm like, here we go. I'm like waiting to get sick. I'm waiting for it to just like slam into me like a freight train. That never happened. What happened was I felt all of a sudden just this feeling of total peace and bliss. I was like floating on a cloud. And then I heard La Mujer, which means woman. And I'm like, oh, she's making herself known. This is the woman. This is the spirit of ayahuasca. And then she starts making me laugh, and she starts saying all these funny words. Like, I don't remember what they were, but it was something like naranja. I always forget how to say that. It was like la leche. And then I start laughing because I'm like, all right. And they had said she's really funny sometimes. She'll make you laugh. And all of a sudden, though, then she said, now it's time for you to receive. And now I'm going to show you what the medicine's really about. And she just said, I love you. You're safe. Everything's okay. Let me hold you. Now I'm going to let you just be held. And I felt like a baby. And all of a sudden, as soon as like the visual started, I was a butterfly, I was a caterpillar inside a cocoon. I don't know if the chrysalis is the name for it, but I'm in this cocoon and it's like translucent. I can see out of it and I can see all like the veins in the cocoon. And I can see that outside of the cocoon is this beautiful, it looked like a scene out of Avatar with like the blue lights and it was all beautiful lights. And I'm like, outside of this cocoon is this beautiful world I can't wait to see. And she just kept saying, receive, receive, receive. Just let me hold you and love you. You are loved. You are safe. I've got you. And I just sort of like floated in that space. And it wasn't even entirely visible. Like there were visuals, but some of it would be like, I'm a butterfly. And then it would just be, I can't even tell you what I saw because I don't really remember. It was just some pretty lights. And I guess what surprised me the most is that it wasn't like I was in another world. Like I said, I opened my eyes and the whole room looked normal. It wasn't like mushrooms or acid where you look outside, you look at things and it's all like, ooh, like it wasn't distorted. Everything looked so normal and still. Everybody looked normal. I got up to pee a bunch of times, like didn't feel like I was out of it. Sleepy and sedated, but I wasn't out of it. I was totally present. And also, it only happened when I closed my eyes. And then I was in this beautiful world being held and safe, and nothing else was said. It was just like, you are loved, you are love, and I love you. And that's it. So when we came sort of to the end of ceremony and he's like, how's everyone feeling? My friend was like, that was easy. Nobody threw up. He goes, he was almost disappointed that it wasn't gnarly. Like it was just sort of, he goes, I just felt happy and peaceful and blissful. I'm like, me too. I just felt like happy. And then it was like 4 a.m. and I just wouldn't wait. Like they were like, all right, everybody, we're going to do a closing prayer. And like everybody, I couldn't even stand up. I was too tired. So I was like, I'll be down here. I'm just going to sleep. And at that point too, he's like, we don't need to do another. I was like, thank God, because I don't need to do another drink. It's now like 3 or 4. I'm good. That was beautiful. I'm tired. I don't want to stay up any later. And then finally I kind of came to as they were kind of closing out. And then I just stayed up talking with one of the guides, the woman, and we had a beautiful conversation and just kind of about receiving and relationships and how I was so impressed with the way that this husband and wife worked together because they were so respectful of each other, and the way that he told me that in the sharing kind of circle, he said, every choice I make, like my bottom line, basically, sorry, I have a cat hair on my nose. Every choice I make is in the interest of this like my relationship is my priority and everything else. And he said, anything that gets in between us is a bottom line hard no for me. And I saw the way that he cooked for her and that he respects her and how they work together with so much respect. And I said, look, I know you're a couple and you probably fight and stuff too, but it just made me look and go, that is beautiful. That's what reciprocity is. That's what giving and receiving is. And it's equal. It's equal give and take. And it was just really, it was like part of what I needed to see is that relationships can be like, it's like the 6 of Pentacles in the tarot. If it's reversed, it means you're giving more than you're taking. If it's upright, it's like there's a nice balance of giving and taking. And it just again reflected back to me about how much I don't give because I want to get back, ever. I love to give. It's like easy for me. And also, there are times where, there are just times where I really have to look at that, is what I'm saying. Where I really have to look at giving to people who don't have the capacity, for example, which is fine. And I don't even mind doing it. But there is just sort of like a recognition of that's a beautiful, that's what relationship should be. So that was really nice and enlightening. Excuse me. And then the next morning, woke up early again, 3 hours of sleep, exhausted, had a beautiful breakfast, hung out, and then went home, like drove home, was a few hours. And I went to bed. I slept like 11 hours, really exhausted this morning. But then I went back to sleep for like a half hour before work. And now I just feel beautiful, peaceful, totally on track. And then I pulled tarot cards for myself today. And what they said was so spot on. I've also been thinking like, this isn't sustainable. Like, how am I going to afford to continue living in this, like living in Los Angeles and doing the kind of work that I do, which is all creative. And at this point not very lucrative, and I love what I do and I don't want to stop. And should I get a corporate job? And oh my God, I can't do it. I'm not meant for that. And the card said, stay on the alternative path. Abundance will come. You have to reverse the idea that you have to work within this structure that you're told you have to work in, that there's only one way to create abundance, and stay the course. Stay the course of spirituality, their spiritual work, creative work, and trust that abundance will come if you stay on that path and you don't kind of give into the system. And also, I really kind of sat with it today and was like, I think I want to move to South America. Like, either thinking about van life, really thinking about, not long term because my family's here, but I've been to Costa Rica. It's not that far. The time difference isn't too crazy. And I was like, I'm going to revisit this. I'm really going to revisit this, because here I am thinking something's wrong with me. And my friend and I talked about this a lot, that we're like made to feel like we're wrong. This is something I wanted to share. We're made to feel like we're wrong because we don't fit into the structure, because we are diagnosed with ADHD. I do not think that ADHD is a disorder in most cases. We are told we have a disorder because we can't fit into cubicles, because we are highly emotionally intelligent. We're highly creative. We don't resonate with corporate culture. We don't resonate with structure. We don't resonate with staying in the lines. And so we're told there's something wrong with us. And then we're like, why am I always messing everything up? And I can't stay on time, and I can't focus, and I can't just focus on one thing. Why is that wrong? Because that's not how our society's set up. It's time, be on time. It's stay within the lines. It's work a 9 to 5. Get your health care, get your pension, it doesn't work for all of us. And one of the biggest things I said to my friend was, stop feeling like you're a failure because it's not working out for you. Because the thing is that you're so highly intelligent and have so much energy, and you're so passionate and such a big personality. And like, the thing is, we're told stay small. Don't outshine anybody. Don't make people uncomfortable. And I think that too many of us, so many of my girlfriends especially, have been diagnosed with ADHD. And guess what? Every one of them is a super successful, or were when there was more work, TV actors, TV and film actors, musicians, painters. These are the emotional depth, with so much emotional depth. And because we live in this capitalistic society, it's all about the grind. It's all about work harder. We're sensitive. We need more rest than a lot of people. We're highly, highly attuned. We're highly, highly empathic. That's why we get so tired so easily. That's why it's hard for us to work 9 to 5s. It's why it's hard for us to rule follow, even though we're conscientious and kind people. And so, like, my biggest takeaway was, maybe we don't fit into the culture. We find a culture that does accept us, and we find our people that do understand us, and how important connection is, and community is in finding your people. Now, that's not going to be everyone's takeaway, but I did want to share my ayahuasca experience because I think I had been so curious about it, and my experience is only my experience. I know that people do have these wildly sort of violent experiences with it, where they are purging and sobbing and crying and throwing up and all of that stuff. I think it also depends who the guides are and how potent the medicine is that you're taking, and how they decide to dose it based on what you need, and how it's done. But for me, I think the biggest takeaway was I wasn't out of my mind. Like, I could have totally function, like, obviously I wasn't going to drive or anything, but it's not like shooting to the moon and you're in a totally other planet. You're still very aware of your surroundings. You understand what's happening. But to me, it was like, yeah, this is kind of like mushrooms. It wasn't like that much different to me. You can overdose on ayahuasca. From what I understand, you cannot overdose on psilocybin, so they do have to be careful. But to me, it was, I got sick the first night. My body wasn't used to it. But they also explained to me all of that dark stuff I was seeing that was like contorted bodies and dark, twisty labyrinths and dark colors was the medicine clearing out like my work week. I had driven there. It had taken 5 hours to get there, and I was in traffic, and all the stress that's been building up, and all the clutter in my head, and the fears and the worries and the doubts and all of that stuff first needs to come out. They said that's why we do 2 nights, because then the second night is usually, now you can see what the medicine really is, which is just peace, bliss, beauty, love, and these plants have specific spirits. And that's something else I've been looking into a lot, is plants and how intelligent they are. Oh, another thing I wanted to share. In my visions, the strongest thing I saw the first night, now I'm remembering what it was. I saw mushrooms, tons of mushrooms, and octopi. There was an octopus climbing up these stairs. And then I was shown the underside of mushrooms and the gills under the mushrooms. And I was being told that the octopus and the mushrooms are physical organisms, I guess, that are made up. They contain all the intelligence of the universe. That they aren't from here. They are from another dimension. And they are physical manifestations of this insane intelligence and wisdom and knowledge, and they have their own spirit, and that we can learn something from them. And that was just one of the things I kept seeing, was just lots of octopi, lots of tentacles, lots of octopi. And at one point I was even standing in the Eiffel Tower. I used to live in Paris, and this octopus was just crawling up to the top. And I just kept hearing, like, these are these organisms that are aliens, basically. What we would call aliens, but they're like extraterrestrial beings. And yeah, the other one was about energy can neither be created nor destroyed, which is, we've heard before, but it just kept coming up. And I kept being like, if there's anything you want to tell me, and they said, you already kind of know it. I mean, I interview near-death experiencers. I'm extensively researching this. I'm aware of the existence of extraterrestrials. I'm aware of spirit guides and angels and ascended masters and what happens when you die, to a degree. None of us will know till we're there, for sure, forever. And really, it was much more subtle than I'd expected. I thought it was going to be like, see what you did to hurt this person, now review it and then throw it all up and let it go. It wasn't like that. It was like a soft reminder. Be authentic. Stop being so polite. You don't have to be so controlled. Let yourself be messy. Let yourself feel anger. And stop trying to please people. Stop trying to manage other people's emotions. Let go of how they feel about what you said. Let go of how they feel about you. It's not your responsibility to manage their emotions, which I already know, all that. And learn to receive. You're worthy of receiving. You don't have to apologize for who you are. And what my friend said to me at one point, which really made me tear up, was I said, this was such a generous gift. And he just looked me in the eyes and said, your gift to me is that you've been there for me. I've known him for 30 something years. Like, you always show up. You know where all the bodies are buried. You're the only person who knows everything. You've held space for me. And that is more valuable than anything. And I think that's something we should all remember, is it's not about having to give gifts. Like, the greatest gift you can give is your presence, your love, your attention, your curiosity about another person, care for another person, and simply listening. Like, that's enough. You're enough, and you're loved. And now I know I did this right away, this video, because I wanted it to all be fresh in my mind. But from what I understand, it's an integration process that can take a month. Like, more will continue to be revealed, more will continue to come up. My guides are going to call in about 7 to 10 days for a follow-up, see how things are processing and how I'm integrating everything that I experienced. And any responsible practitioner should do that, is really follow up, not just, now you're on your own, figure it out. That's something that is a really beautiful thing. But I know that in a month, I'm going to look back and maybe have more revelations. And if anything major comes up, I'll tell you. But I just wanted to let you know that that is my experience. And it was a beautiful experience. I'm very, very tired and also blissful. I feel trust. I feel supported. I feel safe. And I feel very excited about breaking out of the cocoon and experiencing a new future, hopefully free of limitation, of limited thinking, limiting thoughts, and trusting that everything's exactly happening the way it's meant to happen. So if you have any questions, please reach out. And also, if you want to share your own experiences, I would love to hear about it in the comments, or anything you want to share. I'd love to hear about. I'll leave you with that for now. I have some other things coming up that I'm working on for the podcast. I'm going to have some shorts where people are going to share their experiences, little short supernatural paranormal stories. That'll be little 5 to 10 minute, 20-minute shorts talking about their supernatural, even their ayahuasca experiences, etc. I wish you all lots of love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being on the journey, and thank you for being part of this community. Community is everything. That is what I have really taken away, is that finding like-minded souls and feeling connected with others is really why we're here. Loving ourselves and others, as simple as that sounds, that's the whole point. I hope that you got something out of this, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.